You know that feeling when your hands are shaking so bad you can barely grip the steering wheel? That's where I was. Sitting in my car at Riverside Plaza, watching this woman, this Karen, screaming at my 72-year-old mother through the window. And I'm talking full-blown, spit-flying, vein-popping rage over a parking spot. I'd been overseas for 8 months. 8 long months. Military deployment doesn't exactly come with family visitation hours. So when I finally got stateside, I wanted to surprise Mom. She'd been texting me about this new farmer's market that opened up near her place, said they had these honey vendors she loved. Simple plan: show up, buy her some honey, take her to lunch. Easy. What I didn't plan for was Jessica Morrison. I pulled into the parking lot about 15 minutes after Mom. I could see her little silver sedan from across the way, and watched her reverse into a spot near the market entrance. Standard parking job. Nothing special. She was just putting the car in park when this black SUV, and I mean this thing was massive, one of those luxury tanks that costs more than most people's houses, came screeching around the corner. The driver laid on the horn. Not a polite beep. A full 10-second blare that made every head in that parking lot turn. I was still about 50 yards away, walking from my spot, when the SUV door flew open and out stepped this woman. White. Mid-40s, maybe. Blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. She had on these massive sunglasses and some kind of designer athleisure outfit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. And she was furious. "Excuse me," she shrieked, storming toward Mom's car. Excuse me. Now, my mother is not a confrontational person. Never has been. Raised 5 kids on her own after Dad passed. Worked double shifts as a nurse for 30 years. And never once raised her voice in anger. So when this woman started pounding on her window, Mom just sat there, confused, probably trying to figure out what she'd done wrong. I picked up my pace. You took my spot. The woman was leaning down now, her face pressed against Mom's window. I was waiting for that spot. I had my blinker on. Mom cracked the window maybe 2 inches. I could see her lips moving, probably apologizing. Knowing her, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. Whatever it was, it wasn't good enough for Jessica Morrison. "Don't give me that," Jessica screamed. "You saw me waiting. You people always think you can just take whatever you want. Coming into our neighborhoods, acting like you own the place, you people. Our neighborhoods." Those words stopped me dead in my tracks, about 20 feet away. Because suddenly, this wasn't about a parking spot anymore. This was about something much older. Mut uglia. Mom was saying something about not seeing any blinker. Her voice quiet and steady, even though I could tell she was rattled. She offered to move. Actually offered to give up the spot she'd legally parked in just to avoid conflict. Just to avoid being labeled as the angry black woman who couldn't follow the rules. "Damn right you're gonna move." Jessica yanked the car door handle. Locked. Thank God. "Get out of this spot right now or I'm calling the police." And we both know how that's gonna go for someone like you. There it was. The threat? The one that's been used against people who look like me and Mom for generations. The one that says, I don't even have to touch you to destroy your life. I just have to make a phone call. "Ma'am, please." Mom tried. But Jessica wasn't done. I said, "Get out." And then, because apparently screaming wasn't enough, Jessica kicked the car door. Not a little tap. A full-force kick that left a dent I could see from where I stood. Maybe that'll teach you some respect. Something in my chest went cold. You know that moment when anger stops being hot and becomes something else entirely, something focused and precise? That's where I went. I closed the distance in about 5 seconds. "Is there a problem here?" I kept my voice level. "Calm. the way they taught us in training when de-escalating situations, the way I'd learned to speak as a black man in America when you need white people to hear you as human instead of threatening. Jessica spun around, and I watched it happen in real time. The fear that flashed across her face when she saw my size 6'3", bald head, full beard, dark skin, her brain doing its automatic calculation threat level, danger assessment, all the prejudices she'd been marinating in her whole life, bubbling to the surface. But then her eyes narrowed, and that practiced outrage came flooding back. Because she'd just remembered her superpower, she was a white woman, and I was a black man, and in her world. That meant she could say anything and be believed. This woman, she jabbed a finger at Mom's car, her voice dripping with disdain, stole my parking spot. I was waiting for it, and she just swooped in like I wasn't even there. Typical behavior. Typical, I repeated, keeping my voice even. What's typical about parking in an open spot? Don't play dumb with me. Jessica crossed her arms. You people know exactly what you're doing. Always looking for a handout. Always taking what doesn't belong to you. That's your vehicle. I pointed at the SUV, which was now blocking 2 lanes of traffic. Hazards flashing. Interrupting her before she could dig herself deeper into that hole. Yes, and I. With a blinker on, yes, she was getting louder again. And I could see her strategy shifting. She stepped back slightly, making sure there was visible distance between us. Making sure anyone watching would see the threatening black man looming over the frightened white woman. My blinker was on. I was clearly waiting. And this woman, just my mother, I said quietly. Didn't see a blinker. She parked in an open spot. Legally. Jessica's eyes went wide when I said, Mother? Just for a second. Then she actually smiled. Not a friendly smile. A knowing smile. The smile of someone who just found a bigger weapon? Oh, your mother. She drew out the words mockingly. Well, clearly, the apple doesn't fall far. Neither of you has any respect for rules or other people's property. But what can you expect from choose your next words very carefully? I warned. My hands were clenched at my sides now. Everything in me screaming to just walk away before this got worse. But I couldn't leave Mom. Not with this woman circling like a shark. Or what Jessica pulled out her phone, holding it up like a shield. You going to threaten me, attack me, because I will call the police so fast. And we both know who they're going to believe. A respectable white woman, or... She gestured at me with disgust. You want to be the next headline. Aggressive black man assaults woman in parking lot. Mom's window rolled down fully now. James, please, let's just go. Her voice was shaking. It's not worth it. And that broke my heart. Because she wasn't just talking about the parking spot. She was talking about everything. Every time she'd been followed in a store, every time she'd been asked to show her ID at her own apartment building, every time she'd had to make herself smaller, quieter, less threatening just to get through the day safely. No, I didn't take my eyes off Jessica. You're not moving anywhere. Mom, you parked legally. You did nothing wrong. But Mom did nothing wrong. I repeated. And I'm not letting this woman make you feel like you did. Jessica let out a theatrical laugh. Oh, this is rich. Playing the victim card now. You people are so predictable. Always claiming you're being discriminated against when you just can't follow simple rules, ma'am. You're welcome to call the police. I said, pulling out my own phone. In fact, I encourage it. Because what I saw was you committing assault and property damage while making racist statements. Racist Jessica's voice hit a pitch that probably shattered glass somewhere. How dare you? I have black friends. I donate to charities. Just because I don't let someone steal from me doesn't make me racist. You said you people 3 times now. You talked about our neighborhoods. You made it very clear this isn't about a parking spot. I'm not racist. She was screaming now, her face turning purple. You're just playing the race card because you got caught doing something wrong. This is exactly what's wrong with this country. People like you always making everything about race when it's really about you not following the rules. A crowd had started gathering, about a dozen people, keeping their distance, but watching. I could see the calculations happening on their faces. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked sympathetic. A few older white people mostly looked at me with that familiar suspicion, like I was the problem here, like my presence was the real disturbance. You're not calling the police, Jessica said suddenly, her voice dropping to something calculated and cold. Because you know what'll happen? They'll show up, see you looming over me, see your mother who can't understand basic parking etiquette, and they'll side with me. They always do. Because I'm not the one with a record. I'm not the one who looks dangerous. She said it so casually. Like having a record was something genetic. Something written on my skin. Never mind that I'd never been arrested. Never mind my 8 years of military service. Never mind that I'd spent the last 8 months defending the same country she was using as a weapon against me. Mom's voice came from the car. Small and tired. James, please, let's just go. Before something bad happens. Before something bad happens. That's what it always came down to. Wasn't it not justice? Not fair. Just survival. Just getting through another encounter without becoming a hashtag. But she didn't know what I knew. Didn't know I'd spent the last 8 months working with military police. Didn't know I'd taken courses on civilian law enforcement procedures. Didn't know that the second Jessica started making threats, I'd turned on my phone's voice recorder and had been capturing every word. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady even though I wanted to scream. I already did call the police. About 3 minutes ago. They're on their way. And I've recorded this entire conversation, including your comments about you people and our neighborhoods and your threat to weaponize law enforcement against my mother based on her race. Jessica's face went white. Like, it actually lost all its color. You're lying. No, ma'am. I called them right when you kicked my mother's vehicle. Criminal damage to property with racial animus as an aggravating factor. I've got it all on recording, including your license plate, the damage you caused, and every word you just said. Should be here any minute. I didn't. That was an accident. I barely touched. She was backpedaling now. Literally and figuratively. Look, I think we all just got a little heated. No harm done. Right? You people, people. All of us just got heated. I never said anything racist. I don't even see color. The recording says otherwise. I'll pay for the car. There. Problem solved. Let's just forget this whole thing happened. We don't need to involve the police. A police siren chirped from the parking lot entrance. Jessica's eyes went wild. She looked at me, at Mom, at the gathering crowd, and then at the police cruiser pulling into the lot. I could see her brain working overtime, calculating her next move. And I absolutely knew what was about to happen. Sure enough, she sucked in a breath. Her hand flew to her chest, and the tears started. Not real tears. That theatrical, shoulder shaking, hand over mouth performance, crying designed to make her look like the victim. And right on cue, She turned to face the approaching officers, a young white guy and an older Hispanic woman with her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. "Officers, thank God you're here," she rushed toward them, stumbling a little for effect. "These people attacked me. I was just trying to park, and this man came out of nowhere threatening me." I've never been so scared in my life. I thought he was going to hurt me. The male officer's hand went immediately to his belt. Not his gun, but close enough. Too close. His eyes locked on me, sizing me up. Threat assessment. I'd seen that look 1,000 times. I raised my hands slightly. Palms out. Non-threatening. The universal pose of "please don't shoot the black guy." His partner, though Officer Rodriguez, according to her name tag, was looking past Jessica, looking at me with my hands raised. Mom is still sitting in her car, trembling, at the crowd of witnesses, at the massive SUV blocking traffic with its door still open. "Ma'am, I need you to step back and calm down," Rodriguez said firmly. "Sir, you can put your hands down. Just stay where you are. Can you tell me what happened here?" I lowered my hands slowly. "Officer Rodriguez, my name is James Crawford. This woman," I gestured at Jessica, "assaulted my mother's vehicle and attempted to force entry after threatening her over a parking dispute. The confrontation escalated to include racial slurs and threats to use law enforcement as a weapon against us, specifically because we're black." "That's a lie," Jessica shrieked. "He's lying. He threatened me. He came over here with that aggressive attitude and started intimidating me, and I was so scared." She was practically hyperventilating now. "You have to protect me. These people are dangerous. These people..." Again. "Ma'am." Officer Rodriguez held up a hand. "I asked you to calm down, and I asked Mr. Crawford to explain the situation. Now I'm going to ask you to wait over there." She pointed to a spot about 15 feet away. "While I gather information, Officer Brennan, can you secure the vehicle?" Brennan, the young white cop who still had his hand near his belt, looked uncertain. "Maybe I should talk to him first. I've got it," Rodriguez said, her tone leaving no room for argument. She turned back to me. "Mr. Crawford, you said you have evidence." "Yes, ma'am. Audio recording of the entire incident, starting from when she first made threatening statements, and about 15 witnesses." I gestured to the crowd, which had grown to maybe 20 people now. Several of them nodded. Brennan was looking at Mom's car door now. At the very obvious dent, his whole demeanor shifted. "Who did this?" Jessica started crying harder. "It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I just tapped it with my foot because I was so upset and scared, so you did kick the vehicle." Rodriguez pulled out a notepad. "I barely touched it, and only because she stole my parking spot. She saw me waiting and just took it anyway. And when I tried to talk to her about it, she was so rude. And then he showed up acting all threatening. Parking spots aren't assigned in public lots." Brennan said, his voice different now, flatter. "First come, first served. And ma'am, that's a pretty significant dent for barely touching it." "But I had my blinker on. I was clearly waiting. Did you have any physical barriers preventing others from parking?" Rodriguez asked. Her pen poised. "Was the spot marked as reserved?" "No. But then it's not theft." Rodriguez turned to me. "Mr. Crawford, can I hear that recording?" I pulled it up on my phone. Hit play. The whole parking lot got quiet as Jessica's voice came through the speaker. Crystal clear. "You people always think you can just take whatever you want, coming into our neighborhoods, acting like you own the place." Several people in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. One older white woman actually gasped. The recording continued. Jessica's threats. Her comments about typical behavior Her smug certainty that the police would believe her, her casual cruelty about me having a record, about Mom not understanding basic parking etiquette. By the time it got to the part where she kicked the door and said, "Maybe that'll teach you some respect," Officer Brennan's jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Rodriguez's face had gone completely neutral. Professional. But I could see the muscle twitching in her cheek. When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. Then Jessica, because of course she did, opened her mouth. That's taken out of context. I was scared. When you're scared, you say things you don't mean, Mrs. Morrison, Rodriguez said slowly. And something in her tone made even Jessica stop talking. Jessica's face went pale. "How did you... I know your husband. Bradley Morrison, city councilman. Worked at a fundraiser he hosted last year where he gave a whole speech about community, unity, and racial justice." Rodriguez's voice was colder than ice. "I wonder what he'd think about this recording." But she, Jessica, looked around wildly, like she was searching for a lifeline. "You don't understand. I'm not racist. I voted for black candidates. I support black businesses. This is just a misunderstanding. You committed criminal damage to property," Rodriguez said, consulting her notepad. "That's a misdemeanor. You also made false statements to law enforcement about being assaulted, which is filing a false report, also a misdemeanor. The racial component makes both of these potential hate crime enhancements." "You want me to keep going? Hate crime, hate crime." Jessica's voice rose to a shriek. "I'm not a criminal. I'm a victim here. Just because I don't want people taking advantage of me doesn't make me a racist or a criminal, ma'am. You're going to need to lower your voice," Brennan said. He'd positioned himself between Jessica and Mom's car. I noticed protecting Mom instead of restraining me. Something had shifted. Rodriguez walked over to Mom's window. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Rodriguez. Are you okay? Are you injured?" Mom shook her head. She was still trembling, just shaken up. "I just wanted to buy some honey from the market." "I understand. I'm very sorry this happened to you." Rodriguez's voice was sincere. "Did you want to press charges for the assault attempt and the property damage?" Mom looked at me, then at Jessica, who was standing there with mascara running down her face. Her perfect designer outfit rumpled, her whole world crashing down. And my mother, my beautiful, kind, better than any of us deserve. Mother looked tired, so tired. "I just want to go home," she said quietly. "I don't want any more trouble." "Mom, I started." But she held up a hand. "I'm 72 years old. James, I've been dealing with people like her my entire life. I just want it to stop." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "I understand, ma'am. But I want you to know that you have every right to press charges. What happened here was wrong. And the things she said..." Rodriguez's jaw tightened. "Those things were wrong too." "I know," Mom said softly. "I've known that my whole life, but I'm tired of fighting. I just want to go to the market and buy my honey and pretend today never happened." Jessica perked up at this, sensing salvation. "Yes, we can all just move on, no harm done. I'll pay for the car. We'll all forget this happened, ma'am. You need to stop talking." Rodriguez cut her off. "Mrs. Crawford has chosen not to press charges, which is her right. But that doesn't change what you did or what you said." She turned back to Mom. "Even if you don't want to pursue criminal charges, we still need to document this incident. And Mrs. Morrison is still going to be responsible for all repair costs." Of course, absolutely. Whatever the car needs, Jessica was practically tripping over herself now. Rodriguez pulled out a business card. handed it to Mom. This has my direct number. If she contacts you, calls you, shows up at your house, follows you, anything, you call me immediately. Okay, don't hesitate. Mom took the card with shaking hands. Thank you. Officer and Mrs. Morrison Rodriguez turned, her voice hard again. You're going to give me your insurance information. You're going to pay for every cent of damage to that vehicle. And if I even hear that you've gone anywhere near Mrs. Crawford or her son, I will personally come to your house and charge you with stalking, harassment, and every other thing I can think of. Your husband's position on the city council won't protect you. Are we crystal clear? Jessica nodded frantically. Yes. Yes. We're clear. I need to hear you say it. All of it. I, Jessica, swallowed hard. I will not contact Mrs. Crawford or her son. I will pay for all damages. I understand. And Jessica looked confused. And what apologize? Rodriguez's voice was steel right now. To both of them. Jessica's face went through about 15 different expressions. Shock. Indignation. Calculation. Fear. Finally, she turned to Mom's car, not quite meeting anyone's eyes. I apologize for the damage to your car and for any misunderstanding. Not good enough. Brennan said. He'd been quiet for a while, but now he stepped forward. Mrs. Morrison, we all heard that recording. We all know what you said and what you meant. So let's try this again. And this time, be honest. Jessica's hands were shaking. I'm sorry for what I said. And for kicking your car. And for... She trailed off. For using your race as a weapon against them. Rodriguez supplied. For threatening to weaponize law enforcement. For creating a dangerous situation that could have ended very differently if your son hadn't been as controlled as he was. Yes, Jessica whispered. All of that. I'm sorry. It was the most insincere apology I'd ever heard. But watching her have to say those words out loud, in front of all those witnesses, with that recording still fresh in everyone's minds, that was something. The paperwork took another 20 minutes. Insurance information exchanged. Statements given. 3 different witnesses came forward to confirm what happened, including one younger white woman who said she'd been shopping at this plaza for years and had seen Jessica pull similar stunts before. She did the same thing to an Asian family last month, the woman said. Screamed at them about going back where they came from over a shopping cart. But nobody called the police that time. Nobody recorded it. Rodriguez wrote all of this down. Made a note to follow up on previous incidents. But Jessica wasn't done yet. Not really. See, people like Jessica. They don't just rely on their tears, they rely on their connections. While Officer Rodriguez was finishing the paperwork, I saw Jessica typing furiously on her phone. She wasn't texting a friend. She was pulling the cord on her golden parachute. About 2 minutes later, Officer Rodriguez's radio crackled. It was the dispatch, but the voice sounded tight, nervous. Unit Catherine Alpha. We have a call from Councilman Morrison regarding an active situation at Riverside Plaza. He's asking to speak with the senior officer on scene immediately. I saw Jessica's spine straighten. She smirked at me, a tiny, imperceptible twitch of her lips. The reinforcements had arrived. Or so she thought. Rodriguez didn't blink. She pressed the button on her radio. Dispatch. Inform the councilman that the senior officer is currently processing a crime scene involving his vehicle and wife. I will contact him when the investigation is concluded. Unit 4. Alpha out. She turned the radio off. Jessica's jaw literally dropped. You can't do that. That's Bradley Morrison. He signs your paychecks. Actually, the taxpayers sign my paychecks. Mrs. Morrison, Rodriguez said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming dangerous. And right now, your husband isn't here. You are. And you're digging yourself a hole that even he won't be able to fill. Brennan, the younger cop, looked at his partner with wide eyes. He was seeing something new. He was seeing what integrity looked like in a uniform. And slowly, I saw him make a choice. He stepped away from Jessica, moving closer to the witnesses, creating a physical barrier between her influence and the truth. That moment right there, that was the turning point. That was when the shield of the councilman's wife finally cracked. When it was finally over, Jessica got back in her SUV without another word. Didn't look at us. Didn't acknowledge anyone. Just drove away, leaving tire marks and the lingering scent of her entitlement in the air. After the police left, I finally got Mom out of the car. She was still trembling. And when I hugged her, she just broke down. Not dramatic crying like Jessica's performance, just quiet. Exhausted tears that came from somewhere deep, from decades of holding it together, from a lifetime of being told she was less than, from 72 years of fighting battles she shouldn't have had to fight. I'm sorry. She kept saying, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Mom, stop. I held her at arm's length. You have nothing to apologize for. I just wanted to get some honey. That's all. Just some honey from the market. And now I've ruined your whole day. Caused a scene. Made you deal with police. You didn't do any of that. Jessica Morrison did. Not you. But if I'd just moved, no. I cut her off gently but firmly. If you just moved, she would have won. Again. Like she's probably won 1,000 times before. And she would have done the same thing to the next black person who dared to exist in her parking lot. You didn't ruin anything. You stood your ground. And I'm proud of you. Mom's eyes filled with tears again. You know what the worst part was? She was staring past me, out at the parking lot. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't even when she kicked my car. It was when she smiled. When she told you the police would believe her. Because she was right. James, if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't recorded it, if those officers hadn't been decent people, she trailed off. I would have moved. I would have apologized. And she would have won. Just like always, I didn't say anything. Because she was right. We both knew it. We both knew that on another day, with different officers, without a recording, this could have ended with Mom in handcuffs. Or me. Or worse. Come on. I said finally, let's go get that, honey. We walked through the farmer's market together. Mom's arm linked through mine. People stared. Some of them had been in the crowd. A few came up to tell Mom they were sorry that happened to her. That they should have spoken up sooner. One older black gentleman actually got tears in his eyes. I saw the whole thing, he said to Mom. And I stood there like a coward. I'm sorry. I should have said something. You're here now. Mom told him. That's what matters. When we got to the honey vendor, an older black woman named Lorraine with kind eyes and silver locks, she recognized Mom immediately. You're that woman from earlier, she said. With the parking spot situation. Mom nodded. Looking embarrassed. Hold on. Lorraine reached under her table and pulled out a jar of honey. The fancy kind with the gold label that cost $20. This is for you. Free of charge. Oh. I couldn't. Mom started. But Lorraine held up her hand. Yes, you can. Because I saw what happened. I saw that woman screaming at you, calling the police like they're her personal attack dogs. I saw how scared you looked. And I saw you stay in that spot anyway. Lorraine's eyes were fierce. You think that woman would have done that to someone who looked like her? No. She did it because she thinks our skin makes us less. Makes us people she can push around without consequences. I didn't want to cause trouble. Mom said quietly, "Baby, you didn't cause anything." She did. And the fact that you think you did, that's what 70 years of this country has done to us. Makes us apologize for existing. Lorraine pressed the honey into Mom's hands. Take it. Tell yourself you deserve it. Because you do. Mom started crying again. Lorraine came around the table and hugged her. And I stood there watching two black women who'd never met before hold each other up against the weight of a world that tried every day to break them. When we finally made it back to the car, Mom clutching her free honey like a trophy, she stopped at the spot where it all happened. Someone had left flowers there. Just a small bouquet, tied with a blue ribbon, sitting right where her car had been parked. There was a note attached. For Mrs. Crawford, thank you for not moving. We see you. We support you. Black Lives Matter. Mom picked up the flowers with shaking hands. Who would? Does it matter? I asked gently. She shook her head, pressing the flowers to her chest. People are good. James, even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when they're silent when we need them to speak up. People are still good. I wanted to believe her. Most days, I try. But I also can't forget the look on Jessica Morrison's face when she thought she'd won. Can't forget the way she weaponized her tears and her phone and her whiteness like they were loaded guns. Can't forget how quickly she calculated that her word would be worth more than ours. How certain she was that the system would protect her and condemn us. That's the thing about Karens. They're not just annoying. They're not just entitled. They're dangerous. Because they absolutely know that the system is built to believe them, to protect them, to let them get away with behavior that would get someone like me or Mom arrested or worse. I thought that was the end of it. Mom thought that was the end of it. We were ready to take our moral victory and move on. But the universe had other plans. And by the universe, I mean the internet. Remember that young white woman who said she'd seen Jessica do this before? Turns out, she did more than just give a witness statement. She had been recording too. Not from the front, but from her car, parked 2 rows over. She uploaded the video to TikTok that same evening. Title Councilman's wife goes nuclear on sweet old lady. By the time I woke up the next morning, it had 4 million views. The fallout wasn't a ripple. It was a tsunami. And I watched it all unfold from the safety of my living room, while Mom sat beside me, sipping tea, shaking her head in disbelief. The video was damning. It showed everything my audio recording caught, but with visuals. The kick to the door, the finger pointing, the fake tears are turning on and off like a faucet. But the real justice came 3 days later. In this part I learned from the public records and the local news. Pieced together to give you the full picture. Bradley Morrison, the councilman, tried to get ahead of it initially. He released a statement saying his wife was under extreme stress and suffering from a medical imbalance. Classic deflection. Blaming mental health for calculated racism. But Officer Rodriguez, she kept her word. She didn't just write a ticket. She filed a comprehensive report detailing a pattern of harassment. She pulled logs from 911 dispatch showing that Jessica had called the police on suspicious individuals 47 times in 3 years. 47 times. Every single one of them was a person of color. Delivery drivers, landscapers, kids selling water. The district attorney, facing a mountain of public pressure and viral outrage, couldn't sweep this one under the rug. They charged Jessica not just with misdemeanor damage to property, but with filing a false police report, a charge that carries jail time. Then came the dominoes. First, Bradley Morrison's biggest donor, a tech company that prides itself on diversity, pulled their funding publicly. They tweeted, "We do not support hate. We do not support the Morrisons." Then, the city council held an emergency session. I was there for that. I sat in the back row, wearing my veteran's cap. Bradley Morrison walked in looking like he hadn't slept in a week. He wasn't the arrogant man on the phone anymore. He was a man watching his life burn down because he'd enabled a monster. He announced his resignation that night to focus on his family, he said. But we all knew the truth. He was forced out. His career was over because he married a woman who thought she was above the law. And he'd spent years validating that belief. And Jessica, she had her day in court 2 months later. Mom didn't want to go, but I went. I needed to see it. Jessica didn't wear designer athleisure this time. She wore a modest gray suit. No makeup. Hair down. Trying to look humble. Trying to look harmless. But the judge wasn't buying it. "Mrs. Morrison," the judge said, peering over her glasses. "You have weaponized the police force of this city as your personal concierge service for bigotry. You have wasted taxpayer money, traumatized innocent citizens, and acted with a level of entitlement that is frankly staggering." The sentence wasn't life in prison. Nothing dramatic like the movies, but it was fitting. 30 days in county jail for the false report. 2 years of probation. And here is the kicker. 500 hours of community service. Specifically, she was assigned to the inner city community center, dealing with food distribution. She would have to serve the very people she looked down on, day after day, hour after hour. I saw her face when the gavel banged. She didn't cry. She just looked small. The invisible armor of her privilege had been stripped away. And underneath, there was nothing but a scared, bitter woman who finally realized the world didn't revolve around her. Mom received the check for the car repairs a week after the trial. 847美元. 19. But she also received something else. A handwritten letter from Bradley Morrison. "Mrs. Crawford, I am deeply ashamed, not just of my wife, but of myself. I let this happen. I ignored the signs because it was easier. I am sorry." Mom read it, folded it neatly, and put it in the recycling bin. Forgiveness is for the soul. "James," she told me, "but I don't need his apology to know my worth." She goes back to the farmer's market every Sunday now. She's sort of a local celebrity there. The vendors know her. Lorraine saves her the best jar of honey. And that parking spot, the one where it all happened, it's still there. But the dynamic has changed. When people park there now, they don't rush. They don't look over their shoulders. Last week, I went with Mom. As we were walking in, I saw a massive black SUV pull in. My stomach tightened for a second PTSD. I guess, but the door opened. And a young white woman stepped out. She saw Mom, recognized her, and smiled. "After you, ma'am," she said, stepping aside to let Mom pass on the sidewalk. "Thank you. Dear," Mom said, walking with her head held high. "It's a small victory. The world isn't fixed. Racism isn't cured. There will be other Jessicas. other Bradleys. But for now, in this parking lot, we won. And to anyone out there dealing with your own Jessica Morrison, remember this: they are loud. They are scary. They seem powerful, but the truth is louder. So park your car, buy your honey, live your life, and if they come for you, make sure you hit record.